Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Lock Your Backup Repository with Scality and Veeam for Ultimate Ransomware Protection. This special webinar event is presented in partnership with Veeam and Scality. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's event. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a great event lined up for you today. Before we jump into it, just a few things that you should be aware of. First off, ransomware is a serious threat that's affecting so many companies out there. So we want to help you to solve your ransomware challenges. We encourage you to use the questions box. It's there in the left-hand side of your audience console, and we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. So keep those questions coming in throughout the event. We also have a number of resources available for download in the Handouts tab. I encourage you to check those out and download those because they won't be readily accessible after the event. And then finally, we'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card at the end of the presentation. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found in the Handouts tab. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce today's expert presenters. They are Mr. Steve Firmus, Solutions Architect for Technology Alliances at Veeam, and Mr. Moz Tamadan, Director for Product and Solution Marketing at Scality. Now, before I hand it off to Moz and Steve for their expert presentations, I want to first set the stage when it comes to the state of ransomware in 2020 and beyond. These are scary times for us in IT with the role of protecting our company's data, with company after company being hit by ransomware. But for many of us, our data protection and disaster recovery infrastructure is aging. And folks, that's a nice way of saying old. Now, maybe not this old, because this is really old, but outdated and not up to the demands of today's 24/7 by 365 business requirements. Our companies, our end users expect their data and applications to be always available. And with on-premises infrastructure, that's tough to do. In many cases, we struggle to build the data protection and disaster recovery solution that our company demands, and we're trying to stick pieces together to make that happen. Maybe we have SAN-based replication, plus vSphere replication, plus an aging Unix or Linux backup system for the legacy applications that we acquired or inherited. Some of that data maybe goes to tape, some goes to Bob's house, some goes to the cloud, and some we just accept that we're going to lose if we're hit with ransomware. Now, in most cases, the executives and the end users envision this 24/7 by 365 always available data protection system where anything and everything could be recovered forever. But we in IT, we know the truth. And for many of us, that truth is a hodgepodge of technology stuck together that we hope that we never have to be able to fully use. But if there was ever a time to protect your data, now is the time. It's estimated that cybercrime damages will cost $6 trillion this year, and there are daily reports of ransomware attacks on companies of all sizes, from large hospitals and governments to small business. I mean, on the news the other day, my local fire station was even infected with ransomware, and a friend of mine a few years back had his son's baby pictures held for ransom when his NAS was infected with ransomware. I mean, we've got attacks knocking on the door every day via phishing emails, and most companies won't be able to afford an attack if it happens. The average cost to remediate a ransomware attack is over or greater than $760,000, with some companies spending hundreds of millions of dollars. I've even read about companies who are forced to hire public relations firms to try and mitigate the damage, and many companies never recover from the unknown cost of lost business due to downtime and reputation damage. According to KnowBe4, reports of ransomware are up 715% in 2020, and other statistics tell us that ransomware is expected to attack a business every 11 seconds by the end of 2021. I also read that 93% of all organizations are attacked every year, so if you haven't been attacked yet, I'm sad to say that the odds are that you will be. Another statistic tells us that a business falls victim to ransomware every 40 seconds. That means by the time that I finish my introduction here, probably 10 more companies have already fallen victim to ransomware. And to make this even more frightening, there are reports that ransomware is infecting backup repositories, making recovery impossible. So, what are we in IT to do? I mean, our role in IT is to protect our company's data with the best protection available, but exactly how do we do it? And that's where I'm excited to bring in experts from Veeam and Scality to talk about how to lock your backup repository with the ultimate ransomware protection. And with that, I'll hand it over to our first presenter. Take it away, Steve.
Thanks, David. I look forward to explaining how Veeam can help in this ransomware story. The first thing is, whenever I talk to people about ransomware protection in Veeam, the first question I typically get from the crowd is, are you GDPR compliant or SOX compliant or HIPAA or CCPA or, any other type of compliance? And honestly, the best answer that I can come up with, and this came from Rick Van over here at Veeam, and it's Veeam or any product is not compliant or non-compliant. Compliancy is dictated on how Veeam is implemented and audited. Now, basically, what this means is, Veeam is an extremely resilient piece of software that can help you with your ransomware threats and ransomware recovery. That resiliency is completely based on how Veeam is implemented, what sort of threat that you've encountered, and how your company has planned to recover your data in the event of such an attack. One of the keys to this recoverability is Veeam's portable backup format. Right, this is the way that we store our backups. It enables data mobility for your backup data. This includes backing it up, recovery, and migration. It can go across multi-cloud environments, multiple storage platform types, and different storage types, right? Block, file, object storage, tape, cloud. Just throw it out there. We can write to it. And lastly, Veeam, we're not tied to any specific platform, a specific cloud, or a specific hardware platform. And again, this enhances that data mobility and recovery options. So really, whatever you have in your environment, we can work with you to come up with a solution. Now, for those not familiar, this is the NIST cybersecurity framework model, and I'll use it to explain how Veeam fits into this framework's core functions. So, the first one we have here is we have our identify. So, before you can secure your data, protect your data, you need to understand what your data is, the value, and also its location, especially in today's global environments. So Veeam has some features and capabilities that will help you with this. Right, we have our data tagging. You can go in and put a specific tag and say this is mission critical, this is HR, this is confidential. Pick your tag. You can also mark the data locality, so you can actually say where this data is located. So if there's any particular laws and regulations about moving data between different countries, this can flag it. And last but not least is we have within our Veeam one, we have this business view capability, which gives you the holistic view of your environment. So you can see, again, no matter how massive your environment is, this business view gives you that overall picture of what your environment's like. Next on our little wheel here, we have, protect. Well, that's certainly what Veeam, has been doing for, the past couple decades, right? And within this, we have, what we call our 3-2-1 rule, right? This is, 3 copies of the data, 2 different media types, and 1 copy on an ultra resilient storage, just like Scality's Ring, which they use the object storage with object lock enabled, and then allows them to take advantage of our immutability feature that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So with Scality's Ring, like I mentioned, the object storage part, but that was that immutability feature we introduced in version 10. And we have some additional features along with that immutable storage. We have our Sure Backup and Sure Replica, which they're features that allow you to validate the recoverability of your backups, which can include scanning the backups for ransomware before you restore it. So, this is a great way to, not only protect the data, but protect your environment when you're restoring the data, because no one wants to restore infected information. Next, we have detect. So again, I mentioned earlier that our Veeam 1 product, it has features that will help detect possible ransomware activity. We have a possible ransomware activity alarm, which will detect a combination of high CPU activity along with sustained write I/O on a drive. So, again, if the ransomware is attacking one of your virtual machines or something, we'll detect that and we'll alert you. We have another alarm, a suspicious increment size alarm. Now, what this is an alarm that will tell you when you do your backup if there's been an abnormal change in your data rate, your change rate of your data. And this would indicate potentially that your data has been, encrypted or modified. Some ransomware goes out and will just scramble the data. We'll catch that and we'll alert you to the fact that, hey, something's going on, and you can do some automation within your environment to, when you get this alarm, maybe you can power off the virtual machine. Just an example. Next, we have the respond. So again, Veeam has our availability orchestrator, VAO, and VAO can eliminate the manual and typically it's time-consuming processes that make a DR plan really painful to create and maintain and execute. So this Veeam availability orchestrator will automate all this. So it'll automate the testing, it'll actually automate the documentation of your environment, and it'll also help you automate and execute the DR plan. So really, with a click of a button, you can recover your environment. Which leads us to recover. So obviously with Veeam, you back it up, well, you want to be able to restore it. And Veeam has dozens of ways to restore your data and recover your environment. I'll just go through a few of them. There's you can restore individual files, individual documents. You can restore an entire file share, an entire virtual machine, individual VM disks. Just tons and tons of options. So again, depending upon how you need to recover your environment, we provide you that ability. And how's this all done? This is all done through our cloud data management, right? So, what is cloud data management? So, cloud data management means, our customers are able to achieve really unparalleled data availability, that mobility, visibility into your data, again, automation, and governance across multiple data centers. You can do this, on-prem, at the edge, in the cloud. Again, wherever your data exists, we can protect it. One of the challenges that we face is, customers want, more from, their platforms, right? They don't want to just, be able to, back it up. They want to be able to go in and see what the information is and do some data classification, e-discovery, and all that good stuff. And Veeam with our, data management capabilities, this goes far above and beyond, typical legacy approaches to data protection, by providing that next step, just beyond backups. Backup and recovery, right? Obviously, the whole idea is to protect this data and then to restore it. So, Veeam has a very simple to use. It's very, very reliable software. We, give you application awareness, so your Exchange and your SQL and your Oracle. This will allow us to do that granular recovery. I mentioned earlier we can verify backups, we can verify restores of these critical assets. So again, you don't have to do that. I mean, you still want to do that, once or twice a year DR test, but this is a really easy way to do spot checks on your backups. And again, you can automate that through the VAO. And that ensures your customers, are always available to recover from system failures, outages, cyber attacks, and other, issues that the IT environment can run into. I mentioned earlier that whole, cloud mobility, the ability to protect, restore, migrate workloads across any cloud or platform. And last but not least is the monitoring and analytics, the ability to go into your data, diagnose it, remediate it, and this is all done through, AI-driven monitoring and diagnostics. It allows you to move from a reactive to a proactive data management. And again, certainly using this orchestration, VAO, which allows you to leverage your data to unlock, greater business values. Again, you can test and orchestrate your, backup environment, your business continuity and DR operations, which again will ensure that you can cover from, pretty much any event, including ransomware attacks. And this will, allow you to, have that data reuse, to accelerate development and deployment of apps across any platform. So, that this whole, ability to automate it is this phenomenal feature. And, governance and compliance, right? So, ensuring, as I mentioned earlier, ensuring that the application, the security and compliance and privacy requirements are all met, before deployment, before recovery, without impacting the production environment and no additional costs to the customer. And we provide this cloud data management through our cloud data management platform. So Veeam uniquely delivers this cloud data management, through our platform. It's built on our industry-leading, #1 backup solution. It's been designed to accelerate, business agility. Veeam Cloud Data Management Platform, also provides the foundation necessary to simplify backups and recovery and to transform the data, the way that our customers, want to manage and leverage the data. And this delivers, key capabilities needed for today's, data-driven environments. So we talk about, ransomware resiliency with Veeam. And, that comes in, a couple of flavors. We talked about earlier, the ability to detect, the 3-2-1, our sure backup and sure replica. So certainly, Veeam has a lot of capabilities, on the far right-hand side. But it goes, as I mentioned earlier, it goes more, above and beyond, just what the software does. There's a lot of things within your environment, right? Education of the users, right? And certainly the administrators. So, we've all got those, those emails, click here because, Chase has lost your credit card information, or, please enter your social security number here. If I could tell you how many times I've been to my parents' house to clean up their PCs because, my mom or dad accidentally clicked on I shouldn't say accidentally, they clicked on an email they shouldn't have clicked on. So, you need to educate the users because, the first step to avoid a ransomware attack is to eliminate, these phishing attacks and these emails that, people will click on. And again, the way, Veeam is implemented, right? Your whole backup recovery plan, again, utilizing those, Veeam capabilities on your right-hand side. And then there's a remediation plan, right? So you need to be able to document and identify how you're actually going to recover your environment based upon this type of attack. So through this, we talked about, how Veeam can do it, right? We have our Veeam 1, which does the detection. We have, our, the backup strategy. So again, not software related. We talk about this is where, going through and implementing your policies before you get into the software. Then Veeam comes in again with our backup and replication product with, again, more capabilities. And then we have our recovery abilities. So again, Veeam has, along with the education of your environment, a great solution. I mentioned earlier about the ransomware detection. So, this is just an example, a screenshot of, what the alert would look like. This is nothing new. We've had it for several years now. This is our Veeam 1. This goes in and will detect it. Version 10, we've had some, new logic included to make it easier for folks. And I mentioned the whole offline immutability, air gap solution, right? So if you had a tape that was, buried in a hole somewhere, it's not going to be affected by ransomware, right? But then again, it may take you a couple days to get that tape back. So that's where, there are some, solutions out there. The bottom one here are immutable backups. That's where we take advantage of using the Scality ring with the object lock. So this gives you, the nearest to an air gap solution, because using the object lock, which Maz will go into and explain in great detail, once that lock is set, the object cannot be modified. So in essence, it is protected, so to speak, from air gap perspective. Now I mentioned in version 10, we introduced this immutability. So you'll see here, this is a very high level of what our environment looks like. So, on the left, that's your production data. Then you have your, what we call the performance tier. This is all part of, what we call our SOBR, a scale-out backup repository. So the performance tier, which can also be, the ring, just using, block and file, you can do your backups there. And then you have the capacity tier, which will, we set it up and you can, move data off to the Scality ring. Now you can do the move mode, which is after an X period of time, older data will get moved off to the Scality and leave behind a stub so we can reference it. And then we also have the copy mode. And these can be used together. So that is, as soon as the backup file is created in the performance tier, it immediately gets copied to the capacity tier, in this case, the Scality ring. And again, you see in the green, that's our immutability. That's that object lock. So again, once that object is written, it cannot be modified, deleted. Nothing can happen to it until that expiration date has been met.
Thank you, Steve. Staying on your last slide for a minute, Scality Ring is the cloud tier for Veeam Backup and Replication. And based on our long-standing partnership, it was first qualified Veeam Ready object that cloud tier launched last year. with 9.5 update 4 at the time, and is now qualified VM ready object with immutability with V10. What that means is that the mechanics of ensuring immutability were tested and the overall interoperability is guaranteed. And that should provide our mutual customers the peace of mind they need when deploying our combined solution in the field. Now, before I drill down on data immutability we bring to market together, let me provide a brief overview of Scality. Scality has been recognized as a leader in object and scale-out file storage for many years by both Gartner and IDC. We've just been named, once again, a leader in the 2020 edition of the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Distributed File Systems and Object Storage for the 5th time in a row. Likewise, we have enjoyed the same leader status in the IDC MarketScape for worldwide object-based storage for over the years. Our solution, Scality Ring, is a pure software-defined scale-out storage platform, turning a cluster of industry-standard servers into a petabyte-scale storage pool for unstructured data. As an on-prem private cloud, accessible over S3 or file protocols such as NFS or SMB. The Ring offers unlimited scalability with the ability to scale capacity and performance independently and linearly. Extreme data protection is built in with 100% availability SLA and up to 14 nines data durability through erasure coding and geo-distribution. All of that at a fraction of the cost of competing solutions with a record low TCO. We cater to a wide range of use cases and workloads across many industries, from cloud storage to big data to backup and archive, as well as media content management and distribution in M&E and medical imaging in healthcare, and many more. With multi-tenant capabilities built in, Scality can accommodate multiple use cases concurrently, paving the way for storage consolidation. We often see additional workloads brought over once the Ring is deployed, making it the common data backbone for the whole organization. Now, we can't do it alone. We nurture and rely on an extensive ecosystem of partners to deliver a complete solution to our large base of customers across these use cases. We've enjoyed a long-standing and tight partnership with Veeam for backup, and have kept in sync in terms of leveraging each other's innovation and technology. Now, let's go back to immutability. David provided context on why ransomware protection is critical. Steve walked us through what Veeam and Scality are doing to mitigate that risk. And I would like now to cover how we are accomplishing this. But first, let me take a minute to touch on why immutable backups are so critical. No matter how hardened your environment is, there is no guarantee a ransomware attack can't be successful. And if it does get in, the only option is to restore, provided, of course, that you have a clean, uninfected backup to restore from. And that's what immutable backups are all about. Thanks to immutability, backup data stays air-gapped and tamper-proof, so it remains uninfected and immune to ransomware. And that keeps your recovery path open, which is how you thwart ransomware. It's the single most effective resiliency technique, your out-of-jail card, if you will, your insurance policy. And this goes beyond defense. It's about risk mitigation. Here's a comparison in real life. Defensive driving will help, but will not guarantee you won't get into a car accident. That's not enough in and of itself. You still need car insurance for risk mitigation. Same thing here. Now, let's drill down on how immutability is achieved. It's based on the S3 Object Lock API launched 2 years ago by AWS at reInvent 2018. It provides a write-only, read-many, or worm protection model for S3 objects. It prevents an object from being deleted or written for a fixed amount of time or indefinitely. Deletes are blocked, and overwrites are handled through versioning. It's enabled at bucket level with object level granularity. There are two main controls. First, the retention period, which where deletes are prevented and overwrites as well for preset duration. And an independent legal hold in parallel that can be turned on and off to prevent deletes and overwrite until the hold is removed. There are two retention modes. The basic one, governance mode, the log can be bypassed by account user, root user. Basically, privileged deletes are possible. That's intended for data protection against account compromise and rogue actors. And then the more stricter compliance mode, where log cannot be bypassed even by the account root user. So no deletes are possible. That's intended for compliance to regulations such as the SEC 17A4 and others. Now let's look at how S3 object log implementation is done in Scality Ring. We have a fully compliant AWS S3 object log implementation with all relevant API calls implemented. The first two you see here are the new ones, object log configuration, object retention, and object legal hold. And there are some extended ones, the existing one that got extended to accommodate what is required for S3 object log. Both retention modes are, of course, supported, governance mode as well as compliance mode, as well as legal hold. A few considerations worth mentioning: object log must be enabled at bucket level at creation time, meaning that you cannot lock objects on a pre-existing bucket that was not enabled initially. Enabling log feature on a bucket automatically enables versioning, which is how we protect against overwrite. Once log feature is enabled on a bucket, it cannot be disabled. And of course, the same goes for versioning. Any permanent delete action will get access denied if the object is locked, and that outcome is captured in S3 log for tracing purposes. The put object creates a new version, and the locked version is retained as a non-current or archive version. The retention time can be extended but never reduced. And the retention mode can be upgraded from governance to compliance, but the downgrading is not possible. Now, there are some new properties at object and bucket levels that make this all happen. At the object level, there are three new properties: the retain until date, which defines the date until which the object is immutable. It can be applied on put or added afterwards. The object log mode itself, which is of course the governance or compliance mode, and the legal hold flag, basically to implement a whole legal hold and or to remove it. And at the bucket level, there is a warm state, the new warm state, which is essentially the flag to enable locking at the bucket level for objects that are going to be put in there. There's a default retention period, which defines the sort of the default value of retention period for incoming objects that will be put in there. So when objects are added into that bucket, the retain until date is calculated and applied automatically, and that can be overridden by an explicit retention until retain date that is in the put payload if needed. And of course, the default mode, which is the default value of the mode used for automatically applied locks. So, in a nutshell, object retention parameters can be set on individual put or derived from bucket defaults set beforehand. You don't have to worry about the specific API calls and properties we just discussed if you're using Veeam. V10 offers advanced ransomware protection with immutability that leverages S3 object log in compliance mode with a straightforward wizard that to make this all happen with just a few clicks that I'm going to let Steve walk you through. Now, before I do, allow me to invite you to learn more. Here are a couple of links to our product and alliance pages, respectively, where you can find solution sheets, white papers, and demo videos that will provide more details. With that, let me hand it back to Steve to walk you through Veeam's user interface for enabling immutability.
Now we have the GUI of how we would actually go through and set this up. So it's really simple. You go in, you would select your Scality Ring repository. You would then pick whether you want to do the copy mode or the move mode, and the move mode. It can be used in conjunction with each other. And then you would pick on the move mode how long. In this case, I just chose 14 days. Then you can see down the bottom, we have the encrypt the data. Highly recommend that you encrypt the data before you send it across, just for some enhanced security. So it's very, very straightforward, very simple methodology. Now we'll talk about the Veeam Immutability. So again, how you configure it. So this is where you would go in, you would choose the bucket and folder, and you would select the make the recent backups immutable. Just hit the checkbox and you put in a number of days. In this case, I chose 30. Now, as Maz explained, we use the compliance mode, right? So again, as he explained, is governance and compliance. Compliance is the ultra protection. So again, once you've set this immutability up, nothing can be touched. So the object is truly locked. Now, to prove that, when I go in to, let's say I go into Veeam and I say, well, I'm going to go in, I'm going to turn off immutability. You can't. Once data has been written to that, you cannot turn it off. All right, well, what if I'm going to go out and say, well, I'm going to go delete the backup? As you can see, the backup won't get deleted because it's immutable. So, not only do we protect you from ransomware, but this will also, protect you from the malicious, admin, knows he or she's, going to lose his or her job, or, just wants to stick it to the company, and delete the backups on you. Can't happen. Cannot happen. As long as the objects are locked with that date, cannot touch them. And last but not least, here are some great resources that Veeam offers to help you protect against ransomware. And thank you.
Maz and Steve, a really excellent presentation. Thank you so much for sharing with us how to lock up your backup repository with the Scality and Veeam solution for ultimate ransomware protection. I know that this could help so many companies out there to ensure that should they ever be infected with ransomware, that they can immediately get back up and running. It's a scary time for IT professionals who are charged with protecting their company's data. So thank you so much for sharing this really innovative, industry-leading solution. And with that, let's kick off our Q&A. If anyone out there has questions about this solution, now's the time to ask. All right, excellent presentation. It's time to kick off our Q&A segment. Again, like I said, if you have a question about ransomware protection, about immutable data storage, now is the time to use that questions box. It's there on the left-hand side of your audience console. I'll call your attention to it that way. And I've got our two expert presenters on the line. Steve and Maz, are you there?
I'm here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can, yeah, okay.
Yes,
Just wanted to make sure. Great. All right, so we've got some questions coming in from the audience. Let's see, first question, this one's for you, Maz, and they're asking, like beyond Veeam V10, is there any other user interface or CLI to control the object lock settings directly, or is that all done via the API?
Great question. Thank you, David. Yes, the answer is yes. Scality provides a native ST browser UI off of our main or core supervisor management UI that provides all the object lock controls we talked about. There are also third-party GUI or CLI that could be used, like say CyberDoc, Cloudberry, or of course AWS CLI itself.
Nice. Okay. That's good to know. Interesting. So there's a lot of different options really for folks out there to control the Scality solution. Next question. This one's for you, Steve. They're asking, does Veeam use deduplication when writing to Scality Ring?
Again, great question. So, I mean, Veeam doesn't use any of the standard deduplication algorithms that we would use, let's say, to write to do standard disk. What we do use is a fast cloning algorithm, which what that does is it allows us to only send to Scality the unique blocks. So it has sort of the same effect as deduplication. It greatly reduces the amount of data that we send to Scality. So certainly, can reduce the amount of storage as well as the network traffic.
Nice. Yeah, that could be important for saving space. So good to know how that works exactly. Another question for you, Maz. They're asking, can an existing backup already copied or moved over to Scality Ring be locked?
Well, the answer is no. I guess the pre-existing backup is presumably sitting on a bucket that was not, again, presumably enabled for lock. So it cannot be locked because the bucket itself was not pre-enabled at creation time for locking. So all of a sudden, if you have like an pre-existing backup that's sitting out there that was never dealt with object lock, probably it cannot be. Most likely, it would not be able to be locked right that way, at least not through Veeam directly.
Got it. Okay, it's interesting to know kind of how this works. It's not like something you can just lock and unlock like at will. I mean, when the bucket sounds like when the bucket's created, it's a non-lockable or unlockable bucket. Nothing ever comes out of there. Is that right?
Yeah, if the bucket itself is not locked at creation time, anything that goes in there would not be locked.
Got it. Okay. Next question is for you, Steve. They're asking, will we require additional licensing to use Scality Ring?
No, absolutely not. This is all part of the base product. So just set it up and off you go.
Nice. And then let's see, just kind of going round robin back and forth here. Good question here for you, Maz. They're asking, would removing the legal hold cancel any existing lock on an object?
Good question. No, not necessarily. Legal hold and the retention type of control that I explained are completely independent and can be applied in parallel, which means that if a legal hold is, say, applied and then removed while the retention period is on or not expired, is still in effect, the object will remain locked. But if when when the illegal hold is removed, the expiration has already expired, then the object would be unlocked. So it's completely independent.
Interesting. Okay. Okay, thanks for clarifying that. And then this one's for you, Steve. If we want to use Veeam's immutability on existing backups, is it possible to set that up?
So if the backup already exists, in an existing capacity tier, no, you can't turn on immutability on an existing bucket with data in it. But what you can do is you can create a new bucket and have it with object lock enabled. Add that to your SOBR as the capacity tier, and what will happen is any of your existing backups in your performance tier, as well as any future backups, will be copied or moved to the capacity tier in a locked fashion.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So it's cool to know that you can, I mean, it is possible to turn on immutability on existing backups. There is a process for that. So
correct.
Good to know. Okay. Another question, let's see, this one's for you, Maz. Once retention parameters are set at the bucket level, would then all the objects in that bucket be subject to those retention parameters?
Yes and no. While the objects are added, when they are added, the retention parameters that were set at the bucket level, those values will be used as defaults. So they will be impacted by that, unless there is an explicit retention, parameters values in the put payload when the object is added on the bucket. That's possible. And if that put payload carries those parameters, those would override the default values that were set at the bucket level.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Next question. This one's for you, Steve. Here it is. So they're asking, if I lose my performance tier backups due to a ransomware attack, do I need to copy all my backups from the Scality ring to a new performance tier before I can recover my data?
Sure. So the answer is no. What you can do is within Veeam, once you tell Veeam that the performance tier is unavailable, in this case because it was corrupted with a ransomware attack, you can turn the performance tier into what we call maintenance mode, and that tells Veeam that it's unavailable. At that point, we will restore the data directly from the Scality ring. Now, once your data is all recovered, yes, then you can go and copy the data down to the ring to keep it there, to recover the performance tab. But absolutely no, you can definitely restore directly from the Scality ring.
Excellent. Okay. And then this question, I'm not sure which one of you this is for, but the question is, what's the compression ratio for the backup? How do folks know that?
Sure, I can take that, Mass. As far as the compression ratio, I mean, it really depends on what the format of the data is, right? So if it's something, again, like a JPEG or something that's already, highly compressed, you're going to see very little reduction, as opposed to if it was, basically, documents and stuff that have a lot of white space, then that, those will certainly get higher levels of compression.
Got it. Okay. And then I know we're talking about Veeam and Scality here, but I'm just curious, Moz, if folks haven't discovered the magic of Veeam yet and they have another backup tool, does Scality compatible with other solutions out there?
I would say yes, provided that the backup solution they use is enabled for object lock, right? So at our level, as an object store, we implement a fully compliant S3 object lock solution. But so backup solution that would be a target of for storing the backups would also need to be talking the right language and implementing S3 object lock. And if that does, then we can interoperate.
Got it. Okay. I mean, this is just really cool stuff that you all are doing together in this kind of joint solution that we're talking about today, protecting backup repositories by making them immutable and unmodifiable and ransomwareable, if that's even a word, because that's what so many companies need out there. So, I mean, before we go, I know we're running out of time. We want to kind of keep this relatively short and succinct, but let's talk about some of the resources that are on the screen here. Steve, you go first. If folks want to learn more about this solution, can you kind of talk to us about what you would recommend as the next step?
I mean, sure. So for general Veeam information, certainly Veeam.com is the place to go. But specifically to ransomware, we do have some sites set up which will, there's the prevention kit, which will go through some of the steps I spoke about. The education site, which will allow you to go through and educate yourself about different ransomware attacks and different mitigations. And last but not least is the content library. Tons of white papers and documents that you can get a hold of.
Excellent. Yeah, I know you folks at Veeam always do a good job with a variety of resources available. And let's talk now about Scality for next steps, Moz. If folks are interested in this kind of immutable backup storage, what can you tell us? What should they do to get started?
So I would invite them to learn more about our solution, the Ring, and the link is on the resource page, as well as what we can do together with Veeam to help them. And that's on the Alliance page, which is the second link. We have solution sheets, white papers, and demo videos to help them get started. We would love to show them our solution in action, at least at the S3 object lock level, so they can fully understand how the mechanics work on our end. And we can certainly have a joint demo with our friends at Veeam to really show them the benefits and the outcome, business outcome, positive outcome that they can implement with this solution.
Excellent. And I want to let everyone know on the handouts tab there's a lot of different resources. There are 3 different PDFs, one covering the Scality Ring and Veeam Backup and Replication solution. Another one is how to use Ring with Veeam Backup and Replication. There's the ebook on beating ransomware by Rick Vanover at Veeam. there, and it talks about the importance of immutable backup. And then there's links to the Scality Ring solution specifically, and you can go there and learn more about the solution, sign up to give it a try for yourself. And then another link there goes to the Scality Ring and Veeam Backup demo page, and there's a video demo where you can learn exactly how this solution fits into your environment, how it can better protect your company's most critical data. So tons of resources. I encourage everyone to check them out. Thank you for all the great questions. We do appreciate those from the audience. And again, finally, thank you to Moz and Steve. A great presentation. Thank you both.
Most welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, David.
Thank you to Scality and Veeam, of course, and thank you to the audience for joining us on today's webinar. I hope that you learned a lot. Have a great day, and go off and do what you can do to maximize your data protection and better protect your backup repository. You've got to lock your backup repository and really gain that ultimate ransomware protection. And these are some excellent solutions that you learned about today. So hope that everyone has a great day, and we will see you next time. Before we go, I want to award the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card. That's going out to Stefan Lopez from Washington, D.C. Congratulations, Stefan or Stephen Lopez from Washington, D.C. Have a great day. See you next time. Bye-bye.